Absorbing Man, also known as Karl Crusher Creel, has been affiliated with the Masters of Evil, they who wield power, Legion Accursed, the Worthy, Lethal Legion, and the Astonishing Avengers. His partnerships include Titania. His notable aliases include Rocky Davis, Lightning Bolt, Greethoth Breaker of Wills, Herald, and Red Dog. His abilities include the ability to mimic any form of matter or energy via physical contact.
Creel was given the power to take the form of any material he touched, absorbing the property of the material itself. Over the years, the power has worked both for and against him, such as being turned into water, then mixed with dirt to become mud, or once when he literally became cocaine and had to reassemble himself.
The Absorbing Man was given his powers by the Asgardian god Loki in a plot to defeat Loki's brother Thor. During the Battleworld incident, Creel became romantically involved with the super-criminal Titania, and the two were linked for decades afterward.
Later, Creel comes into possession of a divine Asgardian hammer, granting him amplified powers and turning him into Greethoth, Breaker of Wills. Karl Crusher Creel was a boxer and jailed criminal who becomes the Absorbing Man when he drinks a liquid which the Asgardian god Loki laced with a magic potion.
Discovering that he could absorb the properties of anything he touched, Creel escapes prison by absorbing metal from the guard's bullets and goes on to battle Thor. When he escapes, he takes with him the ball and chain to which he was shackled, and uses the ball and chain as a weapon.
Although he is only mortal, Creel's fantastic abilities make him a worthy opponent for Thor, who is later forced to end the battle due to Loki's kidnapping of Jane Foster. Creel then breaks into a house and attacks the occupants.
Thor comes to the rescue and tricks Creel into changing his atomic structure into pure helium. Thor accomplishes this by using his hammer's powers to transform the ground's molecular makeup.
As Creel is acquiring additional mass from direct contact with the Earth when this happens, he ends up drifting harmlessly into the atmosphere. A short time later, Loki retrieves Creel from space using Asgardian technology after he has knocked out an Asgardian warlock and sends Creel back to battle Thor.
After Creel is nearly beaten due to Thor's fighting skill, Loki transports him to Asgard and reveals the true source of his absorbing powers. After being humbled by Loki, Creel agrees to act as his agent, and he is directed to take over the city.
The Absorbing Man defeats the Asgardian legions without too much trouble, and eventually confronts Odin himself. Creel absorbs Odin's attacks, and then the properties of Asgard itself, hoping to rule the universe, and he towers over Odin as Loki arrives to gloat.
Thor is ordered by Odin not to keep attacking. Loki and Creel are then beaten by trickery. Once given Odin's rod of rulership, the two quarrel over it, the Absorbing Man trying to absorb the rod, and the two find they cannot let go.
Odin then advises them that his power lies not in a mere object, but deep within himself. The pair are then banished to space. The Absorbing Man eventually returns on a comet and battles the Hulk.
Bruce Banner had been sent to divert the comet, as it was feared it was radioactive, but the Absorbing Man leapt aboard and began absorbing the Hulk's strength. He tries to bury the Hulk under a mountain, but when the Hulk turns back to human form, the Absorbing Man is unable to support the great weight and was buried.
However, Creel furthermore goes on to battle many other heroes, such as the Avengers, including Daredevil, Dazzler, the Hulk, and Spider-Man. He eventually develops a romantic relationship with the supercriminal Titania.
The pair also join the reformed fourth version of the Masters of Evil. Creel has several more battles with Thor, and the Eric Masterson Thor in a skirmish with cosmic hero Quasar.
although he assisted Crossbones in a plan to attack Captain America. When Absorbing Man learned that Crossbones intended to detonate a bomb in Sokovia, he backed out, declaring that he was not a murderer. Creel is later incarcerated in New York's experimental ant hill prison called the Big House, where all prisoners are reduced in size via Hank Pym's Pym particles.
An escape attempt is thwarted by She-Hulk. The Absorbing Man escapes prison and allies with the Owl as an enforcer, but finds himself opposed by Spider-Man and new hero Ethan Edwards, later revealed to be a disguised Skrull.
He's briefly trapped and converted into a new form of cocaine by one of the Owl's operatives, when they become frustrated with his unprofessional approach, with this new kind of cocaine briefly giving those who snort him a degree of his powers. But he eventually manages to reassemble himself in a sewer and goes after the Owl for revenge. Spider-Man manages to defeat Creel by tricking him into running a gauntlet where he absorbs multiple objects thrown at him, culminating in Creel absorbing 2 different chemicals that cause him to explode. The Absorbing Man later battles and is apparently killed by the hero Sentry during the Sokovia Act incident.
However, he later appears at the funeral of the criminal Stilt Man. Creel and Titania later come into conflict with the heroine She-Hulk and her Skrull partner Jacinda, after they attempt to arrest Creel's cousin Rockwell Highlight Davis.
Later, Creel joins a new version of the Lethal Legion led by Grim Reaper. After a defeat, Creel escapes prison once again and absorbs a shard of the Cosmic Cube.
The Absorbing Man suffers a setback when criminal Norman Osborn uses an enchanted sword, provided by Loki, to remove his absorbing powers completely. Creel is also revealed to be the father of the hero Stonewall.
Later, Creel regains his powers and storms Avengers Tower to recover his ball and chain. He's eventually defeated by Avengers coordinators Maria Hill, Sharon Carter, and Victoria Hand after absorbing the latter's cold.
Later, Creel and Titania encounter 2 of the divine hammers that contain the essences of the worthy, generals to Odin's brother and adversary, Kull Borson. Coming into contact with the hammers, Titania and Creel were transformed into Skirn, Breaker of Men, and Greethoth, Breaker of Wills, respectively.
They later went on a rampage, and Absorbing Man becomes a member of Magneto's unnamed supercriminal group during the fight against Red Skull's Red Onslaught form. He is briefly converted to heroism when everyone on the island experiences a moral inversion as Dr. Doom and Scarlet Witch attempt to bring out Charles Xavier in Red Skull, joining the new astonishing Avengers assembled by Sam Wilson and Spider-Man to oppose the inverted heroes.
Absorbing Man later reverts to villainy when the inversion is undone. When Absorbing Man and Titania were robbing an armored car, the female Thor appeared to thwart their plans. Upon meeting the female Thor, Creel mocked her for being a woman, and for having taken Thor's name for herself, which she answered by breaking his jaw.
Titania then appeared to confront her, but in respect for what she was doing, she knocked out her husband with his own weapon and surrendered. Later, Absorbing Man is among the criminals attending Kingpin's viewing party of the incursion between Earth 616 and Earth 1610.
Following that, Absorbing Man was an inmate of Pleasant Hill, a gated community established by S.H.I.E.L.D. Using Kobuk, S.H.I.E.L.D. transformed Absorbing Man into a man named Harold.
During his time as Harold, Absorbing Man ran an ice cream parlor and was in love with Sheriff Eva. When Baron Zemo and Fixer restored the memories of the inmates, Absorbing Man joined in on their uprising with Whirlwind.
Illuminati members Hood and Titania arrived at Pleasant Hill to retrieve Absorbing Man. Although he was shaken from having a S.H.I.E.L.D.-induced normal life, Absorbing Man sides with the Illuminati as they work to assemble the other inmates to attack S.H.I.E.L.D.
Later, Absorbing Man is recruited by Baron Helmut Zemo to join the Army of Evil. At some point, Absorbing Man was imprisoned in a deep space torture prison.
he was defeated by Black Bolt in combat. Absorbing Man later made an acquaintance with Black Bolt and fellow inmates Blinky, Metal Master, and Rava.
Upon taking in Black Bolt's sonic scream, Absorbing Man seemingly sacrifices himself to help destroy the torture prison's jailer, enabling Black Bolt and the other inmates to escape. At the time when Jailer had possessed Blinky's mind in order to kill Black Bolt, Lockjaw took Titania to Parkwood Cemetery, where Absorbing Man suddenly emerged from his grave.
Absorbing Man and Titania helped Black Bolt fight a jailer-possessed Blinky, until they managed to drive Jailer out of him. After Absorbing Man got busted in one of his crimes, his lawyer Kenny convinced him to join the US Hulk operations as an alternative to getting incarcerated. He gets injected with a Bannerman gene enhancement package, a product similar to a Hulk plug-in that turned him into a gamma mutate where his skin was turned red and he can now absorb gamma energy.
When he, under the alias of Red Dog, fought Hulk at Los Diablos missile base, he got an entity called the One Below All in him after the entity had posed as Brian Banner's ghost. The One Below All taunted Red Dog before ripping him in half.
Despite what happened to him, Absorbing Man is still possessed by the One Below All who controls Absorbing Man in fighting Hulk. Absorbing Man ran off when Jackie McGee, Walter Lankowski, and Puck showed up.
When the One Below All successfully opened the door to his hellish realm, everyone nearby gets sucked in as Absorbing Man weeps. Courtesy of a magical potion, Crusher Creel has the ability to duplicate the properties of anything he touches: gas, liquid, solid, or even energy sources.
This transformation also extends to the clothing and ball and chain that Creel was wearing when the potion took effect. For example, if Creel touches the metal titanium, his body, clothing, and ball and chain take on the appearance and properties of titanium. If the object is large, for example a building, Creel can absorb sufficient mass to attain the same height.
Creel also retains his intellect and capacity for speech and full physical movement, although his first attempt at absorbing water cost Creel his sanity when he tried to keep himself from drifting apart. And he can reform if his body is damaged in any way while in altered form, which he discovered when Wolverine cut his arm off while he was in stone form, and he held it in place as he deactivated his powers. Creel's overall power increases in direct proportion to the strength of the material absorbed.
There is almost no limit to what Creel can absorb, as he has absorbed the properties of bronze, cocaine, Odin's cosmic bolt and later cyclonic storm, diamond, glass, light, rock, silk, soil, spikes, steel, Thor's Uru hammer Mjolnir, water, and even the properties of Asgard itself, although absorbing the Sentry's power proved too much for Creel, causing him to become overloaded with energy and nearly killing him. Creel is now also capable of combining previously absorbed abilities.